There's a moment in every person's life when silence no longer feels like peace. It feels like pressure building in your chest, the kind that makes you wonder whether you're protecting the relationship or slowly abandoning yourself. Maybe you know that moment well. Maybe it's when you hear the same joke for the 10th time and everyone laughs except you. Maybe it's when someone you care about uses guilt the way others use punctuation, a constant ending to every conversation. Maybe it's when someone in your family crosses a line for the 100th time, and you start to realize you were the only one who saw it as a line in the first place. People talk a lot about love. They talk far less about self-respect. The truth is, you can love someone deeply and still be harmed by their behavior. You can be loyal and still be exhausted. You can be forgiving and still be taken advantage of. And this is why Stoicism, though born 2,000 years ago, remains painfully relevant today. Because the Stoics understood something we often forget. Peace without boundaries is not peace. It's quiet suffering. In this long-form conversation, I want to share 6 toxic behaviors you should never tolerate, even when they come from the people closest to you. Not as lessons to memorize, but as reflections I learned the hard way, and that many of us eventually face in adulthood. This is not about anger, punishment, or cutting people out of your life at the first disagreement. It's about recognizing the subtle ways we lose ourselves, long before we realize we're lost. Number 1. When it's just a joke isn't a joke. There was a time in my life when I laughed at things that didn't feel funny. You may know that feeling. That forced smile you put on at family gatherings or among friends because you don't want to be too sensitive, too serious, or too dramatic. But here's what I learned over the years. Humor that humiliates you isn't humor. It's disrespect with a smile. These jokes often target the softest parts of you, your insecurities, your failures, your dreams that you haven't dared to say out loud. And when you finally speak up, when you finally say, "That doesn't feel good," you're met with the classic deflection, "Relax. I'm kidding. You're overreacting. Why are you being so sensitive?" Suddenly, you're no longer the person being hurt. You're the problem. But there's something extraordinarily powerful in responding with calm, steady silence. Not the silence of resignation, but the silence of self-respect. One of Marcus Aurelius's most famous reflections is, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." In this context, that means you don't need to insult them back. You don't need to match their sarcasm. You don't need to justify your feelings. You simply stop participating in the pattern. I've watched entire dynamics change when someone refuses to play along with the disrespect. Jokes tend to lose their humor when the person they're targeting stops pretending they're funny. Because here's the truth most people never say aloud. Your silence can be more powerful than your anger if that silence comes from self-worth. Number 2. Emotional manipulation. The invisible cage. Some people don't raise their voice. They don't slam doors. They don't insult you directly. Their weapon is quieter. Guilt. You'll hear phrases like, "I thought you cared about me. After everything I've done for you. If you really loved me, you would." Suddenly, you're doing things you don't want to do, not because you freely choose to, but because saying no feels like betrayal. Manipulators don't need control over your actions. They only need control over your emotions. Stoicism offers a liberating counterpoint. You are responsible for your behavior, not for someone else's reaction to it. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And that is exactly what emotional manipulation feeds on. Your imagination, your fear of disappointing someone, your fear of conflict, your fear of being seen as selfish, ungrateful, or cold. The Stoic response is not to argue or justify yourself. Arguing only deepens their grip. The real response is clarity, a calm. "No, that doesn't work for me," without adding a paragraph of apologies and explanations, a steady willingness to let their disappointment be their disappointment, and something interesting happens when you do this. Manipulators often become frustrated, not because you're doing anything wrong, but because their old tactics no longer work. And that frustration is the first sign you are finally reclaiming your emotional freedom. Number 3. The weight of constant negativism. People drain your energy the way a leak drains water from a tank. You can talk to them for 10 minutes and feel heavy for hours. They complain about everything. They criticize everything. They expect the worst from everyone. If you're someone who cares, really cares, you may find yourself trying to uplift them. You offer solutions. You offer perspective. You offer encouragement. But here's the truth. They don't want solutions. They want witnesses. This kind of negativity is not a cry for help. It's a lifestyle. Stoicism teaches us that the mind is like a fortress. You must guard what enters it. Epictetus said, "Keep company only with those who uplift you, not people who are perfect, not people who never struggle, but people who are willing to meet you halfway, who understand that energy is a mutual exchange." Loving someone doesn't mean sacrificing your mental health. You can care about them and still choose distance. You can wish them well and still step away, because peace is not found in absorbing the chaos around you. Peace is found in protecting the space within you. Number 4. The people who never take responsibility is a specific type of person who will exhaust you more than anyone else. The one who refuses to be accountable. When they fail, it's someone else's fault. When they hurt you, somehow you become the reason. When there's conflict, you're always the one apologizing first. They rewrite events. They twist context. They turn themselves into the victim of the story. And if you're empathetic, you'll keep giving them the benefit of the doubt. You'll keep trying to understand them. You'll keep trying to make things right. But here's what I eventually learned, painfully. When you keep forgiving behavior that never changes, your forgiveness becomes permission. The Stoics never chased apologies. They paid attention to patterns. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." And sometimes being one means walking away from someone who refuses to grow. You don't need to wait for the perfect apology to move on. You don't need their validation to know your boundaries were crossed. You only need one realization. You cannot build a healthy relationship with someone who refuses to own their part in anything. Number 5. Envy and hidden competition. There are few pains sharper than feeling someone you love doesn't want you to succeed. It's subtle at first. You tell them good news, and they smile. But their eyes don't match the smile. Their tone changes slightly. Their congratulations feel thin, almost cautious, or worse. They quickly shift the focus back to themselves. This kind of envy is not loud. It's quiet, but you feel it in your gut. Stoicism teaches awareness, not paranoia. You don't need to suspect everyone, but you do need to pay attention to how people respond to your growth. Not everyone clapping for you is proud of you. Some only want to stay close enough to observe, to compare, to measure themselves against you. And deep inside, your success becomes a reminder of their stagnation. The Stoic approach is simple. You don't need to cut people off dramatically. You don't need to expose them or confront them. You just stop, giving them access to the parts of your life they misuse. You learn to move quietly, to protect your progress, to separate your self-worth from their insecurities, and most importantly, you surround yourself with people whose eyes light up when you shine. Those people exist, and when you find them, you'll wonder why you ever settled for less. Number 6. When people disrespect your boundaries, this is the test most of us fail. Not because we're weak, but because we're human. You say no, but they hear it as an invitation to persuade. You draw a line, and they step over it casually. You give a limit, and they treat it like a suggestion. Some people don't dislike your boundaries. They dislike losing access to you. Boundaries are not walls. They're gates, and the person who holds the gate is you. Epictetus said, "No person is free who is not master of himself." This includes mastering your time, your energy, your attention, your emotional bandwidth. Here's what I learned. You don't need to explain your boundary 3 times. You don't need to defend it like a courtroom case. You don't need to soften it so others feel more comfortable. Breaking it, a boundary enforced calmly, is more powerful than a boundary shouted in anger. When people see that you don't reward disrespect with second chances, they begin to treat you differently. Some step back, some step up, and some simply step out, which is often a blessing disguised as loss. Remember this. Your boundaries don't push the right people away. They reveal the wrong ones. Tying it all together, what Stoicism actually offers. Many people misunderstand Stoicism. They think it means suppressing emotions, being cold, being detached. But real Stoicism is about clarity, the ability to see things as they are, not as we wish they were. It's about emotional discipline, not emotional numbness, about inner strength, not utter harshness, about choosing peace, not passivity. At its core, Stoicism teaches one truth. You cannot control other people, but you can choose who you allow into your life and how deeply. You cannot prevent disrespect, but you can refuse to tolerate it. You cannot change manipulators, but you can stop feeding their tactics. You cannot save negative people, but you can save your energy. You cannot force accountability, but you can enforce distance. You cannot cure envy, but you can protect your joy. You cannot erase boundary violators, but you can walk away. Stoicism doesn't tell you to be unbreakable. It tells you to be honest about what breaks you, and to build a life where those fractures no longer come from the people closest to you. A final reflection to carry with you if you remember nothing else from this conversation. Remember this: your peace is not a luxury. It's a responsibility. The moment you stop tolerating what drains your soul is the moment you begin living as your truest self. And here's what I hope you walk away with today. You deserve relationships where your boundaries are respected, where your growth is celebrated, where your no is enough, where your silence is peaceful, not painful, where you don't have to shrink to be accepted, where love doesn't require self-abandonment. The Stoics believed that a calm mind is the highest form of strength, and that strength begins with one simple decision: to no longer allow what hurts you to stay disguised as love. If this message spoke to you, even a little, don't just close the video and go back to the same patterns. Take a small step to protect your peace today. If you found value here, hit like so this kind of content reaches more people who need it. And if you want a place where Stoic philosophy is not just quotes, but something you can actually live with in your messy, modern life, consider subscribing to the channel. We talk about real things here: family tension, silent resentment, emotional burnout, boundaries, and the quiet strength it takes to stay calm in a loud world. If that's the journey you're on, you're not alone. You're exactly where you're supposed to be before you go. I'd love to hear from you. Which of these 6 behaviors have you tolerated for too long? And what is one small boundary you're ready to set for yourself today? Share it in the comments, not for the algorithm, but as a promise you make to yourself in public. And if you're ready to keep going deeper, watch the next video on the channel about setting Stoic boundaries without feeling cold or heartless. Your peace is worth the work.